Right, well, hello everybody. With a bit of a bumpy start, we're here. And yeah, definitely Chris and Leslie will have plenty of time to discuss the things that I rudely interrupted you just now. But with a bit of a kind of bumpy startup, we're finally here with this Convo Club session with the return of Ben, which is, I think, absolutely amazing. Ben, thank you so much for being here again.
No worries.
And I guess that I will just give the floor to you. And let's see how we can make this into a very interactive, very kind of impromptu session.
Sure, it's going to be quite impromptu, yeah. So here are my notes. You can probably see them, and this is how
No,
impromptu it is that I just
we
made.
can't.
Oh, that now?
Now we can.
Hey, cool. So here's my notes, which I made for today. So you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing, and that is the entirety of my notes. And it's just me throwing it on the wall so I can talk you through this. So you probably remember in the past 2 years, some crazy stuff was happening. We all got to have an extended pajama party in our own houses. We weren't actually allowed to leave the pajama party. It was all a bit strange, but that was how it was. So we were stuck at home during this pandemic, and I'm trying to make light of it, but of course it was quite horrible at many times. Anyway, during that time, I decided to explore some ideas I had because I'm a sound person, as in sound designer, musician. I do voice as well, and also conversation designer. But also I've worked in video games, like making console games and stuff. And I wanted to explore voice games on Alexa. So I'm going to show you a concept I came up with called backwords. Obviously, that's a play on the word backwards, but as you can see on the screen, very clever stuff. I took backwards and made it backwards. So this has never been released. I just wanted to explore the idea, and honestly, having seen how other voice games have gone on Alexa, I'm not rubbishing it. I think there are some people who have been very successful. It's just at the time, I didn't want to invest myself in trying to promote something when even Amazon don't do much effort to promote third-party content. So I just decided I'm going to make this project for my own enjoyment and see how far I get, and it's a learning experience. So that's the thing. I wanted to make a voice game, and I was, as a sound creator, I think of something like Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant as uh, it's a sonic interface. We talk about voice, but voice is audio, and audio can mean so many things other than voice. Voice itself is something fantastic, but we have other modalities. We have other options. We have, we've got sound design or music or even ambient sound and all sorts of interesting things. So I wanted to explore that. How can I use sound to enhance the experience? I wanted to see how I can make time feel good. And I know that sounds quite abstract, but the reasoning behind it is sound is inseparable from time. Sound is linear. If you speed up sound, you can speed it up to a certain extent, but quite quickly it becomes nearly impossible to actually understand what you're hearing. So for example, if you had like a Bach concerto, you hear it at the speed that Bach intended it. If you speed it up, it's going to sound quite crazy. It can be enjoyable, but it becomes something different. So it's essentially inseparable from time, and it's linear. And I'd say that's the same with conversations. They follow a linear path. It's not as if I need to qualify that. It's not like it's only following one direction, because of course conversations can really go anywhere, but they start at one point in time and they go onwards in time. We don't, we're not jumping around in time as we're having a conversation. Sounds a bit crazy, but I think you're following what I'm saying. So essentially, a conversation, as much as an audio experience, is an investment in time. you go into it feeling like, I can't speed this up, I can't slow it down, I'm just going to enjoy how it unfolds. And I wanted to see how I could make the time that you spend in the game feel good, just using sound. So it's basically a game where you heard a little earlier, but of course I'll play it again in a moment. But basically, you're given a sentence which ends with a word that you hear backwards. So there's kind of tension to it where it builds up to this word that you hear backwards, and then the user or the player has to say that word forwards, you know? So the first example is, in the morning, I have a rawaush, and rawaush is backwards. And the answer is shower. So the user says shower and they progress. It's really simple in that sense. Like, it's not a very complicated game, but what I was aiming for was the feel with the sound design and music was to make it feel quite gentle, or even something closer to a kind of relaxation app or meditation app. I wanted it to feel really good and relaxing and just kind of mentally stimulating. You know, it's not like a frenetic arcade experience where it's really fast and, you know, you've got to be quite worked up to play it. This was supposed to be something that would relax people and just give them like a pause in their day to enjoy, perhaps even if they're driving home from work or, you know, in their kitchen, wherever. So I wanted it to feel satisfying. So that's the why. Actually, the last thing is just to say that I think within our little community in this call now, we're not, you know, this doesn't apply to you, but I would say with most developers, even ones making experiences for voice, sound itself is an afterthought. It's just like, we design this thing, we think of code, we think of the script, the voiceover script or text-to-speech script, we create all of that, and then the sound, whatever, let's just put it out. And I really want to tackle that and show why we could do a much better job with that. But I think, you know, all the people in the room, I think, are already open to this, and I'm not saying that about you. You know, as we were just talking, you know, you think of sound, you're into sound, you want to make better sound, so that's great. So the game has a specific atmosphere. It is arcade style in the sense that it's just a kind of repetitive loop, but as I was saying, it's not really frenetic. And yeah, I wanted it to be calm. Maybe now the best thing is to just play it for you. And so let me stop sharing this screen, and then I will attempt to share VoiceFlow, sharing sound. Okay, in a moment. Yep, so you have VoiceFlow hopefully on your screen. The first thing I'm going to do is show you, and maybe you've seen this before, but just for anyone in the room who hasn't seen, within VoiceFlow, sorry, it's in the playback, so I'll go back to designer, there we are. It's so easy to add audio, like extremely easy. On the screen right there, I have this highlighted node, which is an audio node. To get one of those, you just go to talk on the left. I hope you're seeing that. Can you see where my mouse pointer is? Yep. So in there is speak or there's audio. So essentially when you want the bot to speak, that's your text-to-speech option. If you want audio, you pull that into the flow, and you can either, well, you can essentially have any audio file you want. So if you were using VoiceOver, you would use this option, or you can use sound effects or whatever you want, and that's all it is. And what I'm going to do is I have a file, so I'm going to show you that going in. So this is the highlighted intro node, and need to find my folder. I made a very short Sonic logo, so I'm popping that into the menu on the right, and that's it going in. So I'm going to play that. Tell me if you hear it. Yep. So that was another thing that I was, you know, I'm not a Sonic brander. I'm very into Sonic branding and I'm very interested in it and learning about it. So what I did was I had this concept for a games, little games like indie game studio called Conch, as in the shell. And I wanted to make a sonic logo for that, and that's what you hear there. And what I love about conch, the word, is that, you know, the conch shell, it can be a musical instrument. You can make a horn from a conch. Or I don't know if you've ever read or seen the film Lord of the Flies. They say, I hold the conch, which is when you're talking. And the last thing is, there's this idea that if you hold a conch up to your ear, you can hear the sea. You know, if you hold a shell up to your ear, you can hear the sea. So I was really enjoying the fact that this one concept had so many sonic ideas around it. So I just explored that with the sonic logo. So you've got the waves, and then you've got, well, actually, you don't have a horn or a voice. I didn't have to work those all in there, but I was just playing with these ideas.
Can you play it once more, Ben, or a few times?
Absolutely. Yep. So here it goes again. Yeah, the funny thing is, it's just that melody. Dum, da, ba, da, da. Yeah, and the second note, so it's dum, ping. That ping is actually a sonar for submarines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because it's so percussive, you don't really notice that it's something different because it fits in with the other instruments. I'll play it again. Yeah, it's just got
it's an octave. It makes musical sense.
Oh yeah, totally.
Cool.
I tuned it to fit in with the melody. Yeah. So yeah, it fits in. And that's sound design, you know, like pull anything in and see if it works. You know, if you've got a good rationale to use a sound, like that being a sonar ping fits within the concept of the sea and conch, kind of. I pulled it in and pitched it so that it's the right musical note, and it works. So what I would like to do, now I've yabbered quite a lot. So yeah, let's play the game together. So it's backwards, and all it is one sentence where you hear the sentence and the last word of the sentence is the backward word. So you hear it backwards.
Do we kind of type our answers in the chat, or?
No, that would be too slow. Just shout it to me.
Okay. Please feel free to unmute everybody.
Yeah, unmute. This is going to be so crazy. It's going to be so much fun. So yeah, because it times out within 8 seconds. I think it's 8 seconds, which I think is actually a useful component for a game designer, because you know that your player has to respond within that limit. So yeah, so you'll hear the sentence, and then the last word is the backward word. So you have to shout it forwards. And the first one, I'll give it to you, is shower. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so crazy. It's great. Okay, so when I play, you'll get the Sonic logo again, and then the game will start. Okay? So here we go. Hitting play, running test. Here we go. And the game.
Every morning I have a rewash.
Shower.
Shower. Thank you.
It's time to take the dog for a caw.
Walk.
Hey.
Walk. Should I eat burger or should I eat a Dallas?
Salad.
Bingo.
Salad. While I drive, I listen to Kisum.
Music.
Music. Kiss
It's
them.
not. Yeah, it's not so hard.
Music. Hear the voices. What do they? Yes.
Say.
One more time.
Say.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll write something wrong, because there's the failure sound. So I'm going to stop this now. I mean, that's essentially it. Nothing more interesting than that happens. So I hope that was exciting for you.
That was so nice.
So I want to speak a wee, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I feel like, please tell me, like, how did it feel? How did it feel for you? I won't be
It was
offended.
comforting.
Any feedback?
Comforting.
Comforting. Cool.
It was, I was going to say, like that, I felt very soothing. Your tonal quality of your voice, Ben, was fabulous. It felt really soothing and exciting at the same time because your sentences were constructed to give serious context clues, yet the backword still made your mind really have to think quickly. And so it was really exciting for me. I love word games.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Great feedback.
Yeah, and
So
what I
the word
really
game,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
well, the word game, I think has been said earlier. I can't think of the right word, but it's a challenge, it's a friction, and so it can get you on edge. But the soothing sounds throughout keep it as a positive experience.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And you know what I love is that even if you might have guessed the word from the context, hearing this backward word just does something in your head that still makes it challenging because you're trying to understand the word that you can't understand and also fit it in the sentence. And I noticed that with walk, I'm like, that's funny because I heard kwal, which is a Dutch word, and I immediately also could reverse it. So it might be really interesting to see if this is also different to play or more difficult to play when English is not your main language.
Yeah, sure. I can imagine because we get these what we call like false friends, right? Where you think you hear a word that's from your language, but it's actually got a different meaning in the other language.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just see a very dear old friend entering the meeting. Hi, Michelle. So good to have you here.
Hello. I
Hi.
saw that Ben was here and I haven't talked to Ben in so long, or Micah. And of course,
Michelle.
hello is here, Miss Melanie, and everyone else.
Amazing.
So nice.
Yeah, lovely to have you here.
I just got out of a meeting and I saw the email. I was like, oh, I gotta come in.
Cool. No, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
And you know what, Ben, another comment, kind of piggybacking on Micah, this game, let me tell you, I would buy it. And I think that I just read some research, just about the aging brain, Alzheimer's and things like that, and how you have to have activities that create these new neural pathways. And I think that this is an excellent game, especially for those who are audio inclined and who love words. It's a great game. I wish you would release it.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. That's lovely feedback. I mean, thank you. The whole releasing thing, it's like maybe I should pitch it to someone. Doing it by myself, I just know that it's, as with so many projects, you put it out there and then unless you can get enough attention, projects can just disappear. But maybe I could reach out to Labworks or one of the voice game companies. But this is amazing. Thank you for the feedback. I mean, that wasn't the aim of this meeting to get you all to validate my concept, but thank you. So I would love to tell you more about it. Is there anything else you want to say now, or can I give you some more context?
One quick question. Ben, I heard you say that maybe I heard correctly or incorrectly, that if your response is incorrect, it gives you a sound.
Yeah.
What? I don't know if I heard that sound. Are you able to just play that?
Yeah, I'll go through to the next round. So this should play it. Did you hear something there?
Yeah.
Is that for, that's for incorrect?
Yeah, it's
That's interesting because when I hear the first part, and that sounds like almost like and then all of a sudden it goes to
Yeah.
like happy, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like I might have gotten it right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I get you. That's totally. I mean, it is the game itself is in a major key, and that sound there is in minor, but which was my thought being that that would be enough to say something's gone wrong, but your feedback tells me it's not enough. So,
And it could be because our ears are so acclimated to when you think about,
yeah,
harsher, stronger, deeper tones. That to
yeah,
me, like Mike, it felt very affirming. Like, did I get it right? Did I?
yeah. I get you. I get you.
Correct.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was kind of a gentle rebuke, you know? I felt it was very gentle.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's also nice. Yeah.
No, sure. I mean, I think it's basically a UI sound, right? It needs to convey a message. And what you're saying right now is the message isn't strong enough, but I wouldn't go too far into the territory because that wouldn't fit the context of this game, right? But definitely, yeah, that's not giving a strong enough message, clearly. And that's
So
the thing.
that's interesting, and because then you have like several perspectives, I guess, that you can work with, because you said this one was in minor, so kind of more sad sounding.
Yep.
But I can also imagine that you could vary with whether you're ending up or perhaps down or something, or
Yeah, I think that ending up signified correct, and down would be better.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes perfect sense because it's like, or you know, like even
Exactly.
that single interval is like one of them is yes, one of them is no. But you know, really these things just need to be tested. You're basically hearing a concept that's lived in my head and my computer and nowhere else. So exactly the feedback you're given right now is exactly the kind of user testing that the game needs. Any game needs. They need a hell of a lot of testing.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question and a comment. Question is, so for example, if a word ends with a silent E, but then you say it backwards, it's going to put a synonym in, it's going to put a morpheme in there that's different. It's going to totally change. Do you worry about that, or you just say, no, whatever it is, it is?
What you're saying is perfect, because that leads on to Evernote.
Yay.
So this is yeah, so the other thing I didn't say about that was that it's just demo voiceover. Like I literally just threw it out with the plan that I would redo it later. So I think it was even recorded on this mic. It's not what would be used as final. But in terms of the backward word, that's great that you pointed that out, Leslie, because you know what, if I did the actual voice recording backwards, it would sound completely abstract. I was hoping to actually show that to you in this call, but unfortunately I can't play from my music program. But essentially, it, you know, like musicians used to play with this, like the Beatles had backwards singing on songs, and it just sounds otherworldly. It's like you basically can't tell what they're saying because it's so abstract. So within the game, it's not that. I'm not using the literal backwards recording of the sound. I've taken like the word shower, and I've just taken that word and looked at it backwards and said it backwards. So shower being rewaush. You know, it's a kind of, it's a version of the backwards sound.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of playing with that to make it not too hard and not too easy. So your point, Leslie, about like a silent E, I guess with each word, I would just decide like what's a happy medium between it being utterly crazy or being something that's too easy to work out what it is backwards, you know? So like, yeah, salad is easy, Dallas, you know, walk, caw, but what's a word with a silent E at the end? Can you give me an example?
Micah is one.
Micah. So I guess that would be Ekayam.
My backward name is Ekiam.
Ekiam. But
Yeah.
that's literal, right? So ekiam, if you took the letters and read it as a word, it would be ekiam. But if
Yes,
you took the sounds backwards, maike, ekaim, maike.
no. It's AKM. It's MAAIKE.
Oh, because sorry, you're maike. It's got that
Yeah.
little like
But
waver. Sorry. Yeah.
my last vowel is silent. It's like schwa. It's Maaike. But if we turn it backwards, it turns into the full-blown vowel AKM.
Yeah.
So I
It's-
guess that we apply our familiar linguistic rules when we turn around a word. That's really interesting, actually, to see whether that holds for more words. And
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
That's yeah.
Right, Neb? Neb.
Yeah, no, I'm Neb or I'm Nimaj Neb.
Or I need Nelev.
So I took a word, Thobanoff.
Sorry?
You'll never get it. It's phone booth backwards.
Phone booth, yeah.
Nobody knows what
Wow.
phone booth is anymore anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But
But see, within the game, Thubenov, I would try to use, that's, to me, that's like the literal reading of this new word that is written Thubenov, but the taking phone booth and turning it backwards would be Thubenoth, because
No.
phone, oath, So taking
right.
the sounds and turning them backwards, because
I
I
wonder if
think
it can be automated some way.
perhaps, but then when I'm recording the voiceover, there's various ways it can be done. And that's the thing, if this was read by text to speech, you would get a very different result. You would end up with basically what sounds like a new language, I think. So yeah, in terms of the voice recordings, it's not a literal reversal of the sound recording, and it's kind of me sort of messing with the word to see what feels right, which isn't, of course, very scientific. I was just playing with the concept. And the other thing that I want to say is those, you only heard, I think, 4 of the rounds of the game. But what I'm doing there musically is I'm playing with something called shepherd tones. Have you ever heard of shepherd tones? It's like it's something that can be done within digital music programs so much easier than if you tried to play it live acoustically on an instrument. I'm not sure if that's even really possible, but essentially what you're doing is you're creating an endless scale. So of course, like it's in C major, so that's just every white note on the piano, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. And the way the shepherd tones work is that it sounds like it's constantly ascending. Each note is going up a semitone, and it sounds like as soon as you go up each note of the octave and reach the end of the octave, it doesn't sound like it goes back down to the start of the octave. It sounds like it goes into the next octave. But what you're doing is you're fading. It's kind of hard for me to describe it. Unfortunately, I can't show you, but you're basically fading out the notes that are going up. Actually,
Yeah,
it's going to sound very abstract if I try to describe it, but if you search shepherd tones, you'll find many examples, because the film composer Hans Zimmer was crazy about them for a while. He used them a lot in the film Dunkirk. And essentially, to try and sum it up in the best way possible, it sounds like an endlessly ascending or descending musical scale. So in terms of usefulness within a game, it basically feels like the tension never releases, which in this game, because I created something that's almost like meditative music, it's not horrible. It's not like, really tense atmosphere. It just feels like it's constantly moving forwards. So that was really fun to play around with that. And so I really wanted to have this music in there, because if it was just voice, I think, my concept being to see how I can create a very interesting time feel, I wanted to do that with sound. And actually, yeah, I've covered pretty much all of the notes. Apart from the other thing is just from a conversation design perspective, this is, I think, hopefully quite an easy project, because in terms of NLU, you're not looking for various ways that users can match the, like match the intent, because every intent, like the first one, the user word should be shower, and you're not looking for them to say anything other than shower. So it should mean that training the NLU is quite easy, because each intent should just be one word, and you can of course have various recordings of how users can say that word, but the answer should just be one word. The only problem, of course, would be if you have two questions where they say words that sound similar to shower. That could be a problem, but that's something to be explored if the game gets developed further. And yeah, there's three other things I wanted to talk about. One of them was audio quality. I showed you how I would drag and drop a sound into VoiceFlow. VoiceFlow is very good, but one of the things I would say is that within the VoiceFlow design app, when you drop an audio file in there, you can hear a noticeable drop in quality. It compresses, and I think what they're doing is going from, I drop in a MP3, which is 320 kilobytes per second, which is essentially full quality MP3, and they drop it down to, I think, 48 kilobytes per second. And that's no criticism of VoiceFlow, because they have to put these sounds on their servers, so it's going to take up a lot of bandwidth. But also, like, Alexa does the same, so what's the point in them storing the full quality sound when Alexa is going to compress it down to 48 kilobytes per second? They do, to add to that, there are other ways of keeping the sound full quality. One thing I was playing around with was to host it myself on, like, the AWS servers, and then within VoiceFlow you can put the URL, so you link to the hosted sound and it plays back, and VoiceFlow make that option quite clearly available, and they support it. And in my tests, it kept the sound quality full. It's just, as I've never released this game, I've never actually heard it coming out of the voice assistant to hear whether it compresses when Amazon, when it goes through Amazon's stuff. That's just something to test. And of course, audio quality matters a huge deal, because if I'm gonna develop these sounds to a quality that I feel is correct for the project, and if it's then going to be compressed by algorithms that are outside of my control, then it's not really the project that I created. Someone else has gone and compressed it, and it's like, okay, it sounds worse than what I intended. And I'm quite an audio nerd, so I feel strongly about that. But also, people do react, like MP3 full quality is, for most people, they can't tell the difference between that and any other full quality audio format like WAV or FLAC or something. But if you take an MP3 and compress it further, they notice. With text to speech, it usually is 48 kilobytes per second, but that actually works with voice. When you take music or sound effects and compress it to that level, you can tell the difference. Most people, I think, can tell the difference that it's being compressed. So that's just a point about audio quality. I could go on about it for a long time, but I think VoiceFlow are doing a great job. And as most skills don't use much audio, I guess they have never had to consider whether to keep the audio quality full when people import. And perhaps they've created a workaround. I was making this game over a year ago, and things developed quickly in our field, so maybe they've changed something. The only other things I wanted to say, first thing was the pause. I decided that as people could be playing this game while they're driving their car, That was one of the scenarios I imagined. I thought it's absolutely awful if someone's driving and they perhaps are at a moment where they really have to concentrate on driving and they have a voice game that's trying to grab their attention. So what I did was I considered that someone could say, like, they could just shout out driving or stop game, pause game, and it would just play an ambient music loop for a minute, and then they could go back into it. And the other thing, which is absolutely incredible, I'm not sure if many of you have explored accessibility apps and so on. Myself, only just a little. I'm very interested, but those apps that are created for people who aren't able-sighted, like they have, there are apps which are reader apps where people can use the web and it's basically reading everything on the page with a text-to-speech voice. And I recommend you go and find videos of people using these on YouTube, because a lot of them are using them at incredible speeds. Like they're listening to text-to-speech at like 500 words per minute. And most of us speak at roughly 160 words per minute. I'm a slow talker. I'm probably about 140. When I've done a few voiceover sessions, they were like, Ben, can't you speed up? And I can't. So I'm a slow talker. And so that put a very interesting angle on a game like this, where there could be a version for those people who aren't able-sighted, who are used to listening to audio at a much faster rate, and they could have a very interesting version of this game where it's so much faster, because perhaps they would find this boring because they're used to hearing text-to-speech voices and so on at a much faster rate. And that just adds on to the final point I want to make, which is I have often wondered why anybody in our industry who is creating voice apps doesn't, as a matter of course, test those apps with people who aren't able-sighted, because they are surely the best people to make sure that voice apps are working as well.
Yeah, and we can, I mean, I'd be happy to kind of hang around here for like 15 minutes more. It's been a weird day anyway. So, with that, let me just stop the recording. And before we do that, Ben, thank you so much for another wonderful session. And it's always such a pleasure to have your own unique and very sound-oriented view with us, because it really kind of points out to me also the details that we, for instance, put in a single sentence or even a single word, like the weighing and choosing and rephrasing. And, you do that with sound, and you gave us a little glimpse of that today. And for me, it definitely tastes like more. So I'm actually really serious in saying that we should definitely have you back. Somewhere in the new year, and just make this a staple of Convo Club, because sound, I mean, don't we all love sound?
Yes, I think.
Great. Then I'll stop the recording, and anyone who wants to hang out a little bit more, just say so. No?